guys, hi, this is Marta with Universal Power Tarot, and today we're going to be talking about CPTSD, PTSD, and healing from trauma and the best ways to go about it. And of course there are several ways, and I'm just going to share my own personal journey and discoveries I made with these topics, and hopefully they're helpful to you. Let's first start with what is CPTSD, what is PTSD, and how does it show itself? How does trauma show itself in your body, mentally, emotionally? Like, what happens? Because it's important to understand what actually happens in your body on the emotional level, on the mental level, to really find the healing that you need, right? So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder or syndrome. And that one occurs in war veterans, for example. It can also occur when you're being mugged or when there's a rape. It's one single event that you can always like point to that specific event. So whenever something triggers that, you know exactly what it is. So it's one singled out event. With CPTSD, it's complex post-traumatic stress disorder or syndrome. And that one is tricky because you can't point your finger towards one single event because it's prolonged over a long period of time. And often people with CPTSD have been abused by narcissists, meaning either their parents, their partners. And when this occurs in early childhood, it's sometimes very difficult to sort out, but it's not impossible. And these are the good news about it. So what happens with that is that as a child, you're being made believe that you are no good because you have to believe what the adults are saying. You have to be okay with what the adults are doing because they're the ones that take care of you. So there's a survival mechanism that is entangled with this whole thing, right? So what often happens then that CPTs or trauma and abuse survivors, they start to put on perfectionism because they start to lose themselves. They start to lose their boundaries because they have to. And often they're trained to, and I'm just gonna take that pillow while I'm talking about it. I was actually thinking about bringing my guinea pig in. But just to comfort yourself, right, while you're listening to what I'm saying. So you're losing your boundaries because they're being taken away from you. You're not allowed to defend yourself the way you would naturally defend yourself, telling someone off and telling someone, I don't like this. And children just do this naturally unless they're really being trained. And I'm really using the word trained here because that's what it is. The sick adult is really training the child into not having any boundaries, and sometimes this goes into various lengths, which are then really problematic in adulthood as you are entering in certain relationships again and again because you haven't resolved the trauma, and because you can't spot it. You can't spot it yet. And I've heard it. The first time I came out with the video, a lot of people felt heard through me voicing what I voiced. But also, excuse me, it was also, people wake up really late sometimes to the narcissistic patterns because in my case, I was very aware that my father was really not a nice person. There was a lot of violence, there was a lot of emotional, physical abuse, and I knew that. I was aware of it, but my focus was so much on I'm never going to hit a child ever. Like, I'll cut off my hand before I ever touch a child. That was my thing ever since I must have been like 10 years old or something, maybe going even further back than that, when that became my mantra. But I thought, like my mother, who is a full-blown narcissist, I never thought she was the bad one, and that came when I was 35. That's how late I was into the whole abuse thing and not aware of what she was doing, although I had done therapy before, which was a spoken therapy. And it was good for the time. It was good to prepare me for my healing later. So I would recommend, with regards to healing, to really not exclude anything that works for you, because this works on different levels, right? The healing does. So but we were talking about the boundaries and how they're being broken down, but also this triggers a fight or flight response within our body. This is on the emotional level, it's on the mental level too, and there is a thing called the vagus nerve, and I really want to get into that, because you can induce tremendous healing by calming your nervous system down. Because what happens is, there's a trigger somewhere, and there may be many hundreds of triggers throughout the day when you're suffering from CPTSD, and that triggers you into that shock kind of a thing, right? And that triggers your nervous system, because your brain is signaling danger to your whole body, and you'll feel it physically, right? Although there may not necessarily be danger, in most cases there isn't any danger, but you're still so much in the whole process of seeing danger everywhere, even in facial expressions where there really isn't, that your environment becomes extremely hostile and very difficult to deal with. And it's very difficult to hold relationships for that reason, because you may be feeling attacked a lot, or you may be feeling this is not a safe environment for you, and often turning to pets, for example, loving animals super a lot because they're not dangerous, loving children a lot because there's no danger there, right? And often being able to very much like hold up connections to children and pets. Yeah, and this is me as well. I'm just like adults, not so sure about children and pets. It's incredible. Like, I have such a connection. It's crazy, but there's no perceived danger. So that's that thing. So how do you heal that? Oh wait, hypervigilance. I really want to mention that, because you stay in motion. You don't rest. You don't allow the feelings to come up within you, and you're basically saying goodbye to your body and to all your needs and functions, can be in some cases, right? Your own needs, even like simple stuff like eating, can be totally disregarded, because you're just like, yeah, I don't need that. Like, I'm not in my body. I have no needs, basically, because this is what you're being told by your parents or caregivers or whomever, right? That your needs don't matter. You don't matter. So you are internalizing their voice and make it your own as you grow up. And again, this can become problematic because, and these are often like the most give them kind of workers, the ones that you kind of want if you're unaware, because they will just go beyond their limits completely. They will just overgive and completely forget about themselves. And this is the whole pattern that is playing out here, though, on this scale. And this is me as well. I'm going to give you the example of food, because I was punished with not, for example, not being able to eat, which is like, the moment I thought it was normal the longest time, and then I realized, holy shit, I would never do this to my child. Never in a million years would I punish my child going to bed hungry, or being punished and just eating bread and water. I mean, that is just sadistic, and this is precisely what happened. But the way I internalized that pattern is, I was like working so much, being perfectionist to the T, like the way I looked, the way I acted, like everything controlled, the whole environment. As much as I could control it, I would, because that meant some sort of safety and some sort of I'm being held. But it also meant like running all the time, the fight or flight, like I said. But I wasn't aware of that I had CPTSD until I was 35, or 36 something. But that had to do with the moment I realized narcissistic patterns, like in my mother, and that she actually was a full-blown narcissist, and that my father was actually a sociopath, or is a sociopath, which is crazy. And I would have never thought that. Spirit actually gave me that term, and I had to look up what that actually means, because I kind of confused it with psychopath, which are two different things. It's just like he's not in touch with himself, with his emotions, and neither is my mother. So it's a very compassion-free environment, to say the least, to grow up in. And again, we internalize these patterns, and I was giving you the example of food. So I would either overeat, Or I would not eat at all, like punish myself. I can't eat yet. I still have stuff to do. That's so crazy. Like not taking care of my body in that way. Although I always looked like really great, because that's the perfectionism. No one would ever know that I had these patterns, least of all myself, because I did not recognize these patterns. I did not know what I was doing. It was just so normal to me. And I didn't have any patience for people that didn't work as hard as myself, because again, I was pushed into the pattern and I kept it running. And so it was just like, I can do it. Why can't you do it? Well, the reason is because they're taking care of themselves, right? They're taking care of their bodies. They actually listening to their needs, which I was not. And at one point I was so skinny, which also I didn't see. I lost my sense of taste. So, and I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror. I was so dissociated. It was crazy. But again, then I didn't realize. I was just like, well, I'm just tired. I didn't see how all the patterns, they go together. And this is another vagus nerve activity, by the way. Also, the being slouched forward, this movement that you often get like with the computer, like this, when you're sitting in the computer, in front of the computer a lot, and your neck slightly tilted forward. That's also the vagus nerve that is overactive here or not active enough. So it is also a posture thing. Your posture is affected by the trauma because you're trying to protect your vital organs. That's what it is. That's your heart, that's your lungs, that's the important thing. That's what you do. So you would walk around like this a lot. And again, the healing occurs here on several levels, because if you're just working physically and work out to open yourself back up again, that's fine, but you're still only on the surface of it. If you just did vagus nerve exercises, that's cool, because it'll induce healing and it'll bring your nervous system from the deregulated state back to a regulated state, which is really important, but that's not enough. If you just talk to someone, then you're still activating your brain, which you're using most of the time anyways. When you're traumatized, you're not in your body. So you want to have exercises that also incorporate the body. You want to do body scans where you can actually feel yourself. You want to find a therapist that works on a somatic level, that works body-based, that maybe, that definitely has heard of the term narcissist and knows how to deal with it too. Trauma is another thing to look for, like trauma therapist or something like that. And someone that also knows about the vagus nerve, I would really recommend that, because if they don't, I wouldn't go there. Like I've had my fair share of people that just didn't know the term narcissist. They didn't know the term CPTSD or PTSD. And they often can cause more damage. And I'm not saying all of them are doing it. I'm just giving you my personal experience. And it was helpful at the time for me. But the real healing occurred when I went to work with my body, to work with these past experiences on a physical level, because the trauma is stored in your body. That means it's a funny thing when these things release, because it's like, where do you feel the trauma? Then you go in your body, and then it may be in your chest, and then when it releases, you may all of a sudden feel a tingling in your nose or a tingling in really weird spots in your body where you're just like, how's this possible? But it's stored somewhere else too that you would have never thought about. And you want to let go of these traumas, because first of all, the healing, the grieving process, letting go of guilt and shame, which sometimes the speaking therapy will induce more upon you, because you may feel guilty that something isn't resolving or isn't resolving quickly enough. With the perfectionism and everything, you see, they all go hand in hand, much like with the eating. If I just eat healthy enough, there's only so much willpower I can muster up before I start falling back into the old pattern, because I have not resolved the deeper trauma. So you want to work body-based. Like, this is the thing. You want to dance, really like dance, Shakti warrior dancing, for example, temple dancing, because it brings the Shakti energy, the female energy, back into existence. And our body, physical body, is the female, is the feminine, right? And this goes for males just alike. The mind is the masculine and the body is the feminine. So you're activating your body again, because your body knows what to do. and shaken. You may shake. It's much like after a shock, because when you think of a shock, you always have like that shaking feeling. That's a natural response from your body of letting go of the trauma, letting go of what needs to be released. It's being released. And that is utterly important. And we suppress, because we're so excellent. Human beings are excellent at suppressing emotions, at suppressing feelings, and even suppressing shock. Like, I had that experience with the most terrible, violent experience I've had with my father, where I wasn't allowed to experience the shock back then, but I sure was shocked, and it was all stored in my body, and it caused all sorts of chronic illnesses in my body. Like, oh my God, like there was a lot that was stored in my body. And yeah, Jesus Christ, man. I'm always thinking I'm probably going to get sick at some stage, and this is going to teach me something, not realizing that I've had the whole 38 years already. I've had to deal with all this crap, and I went through illness, and I went through all the mental stuff, through depression, through a burnout, and because from the hypervigilance and from always wanting to be perfect and wanting to do this and that, and at some stage running out of energy and running out of the fuel to actually hold that up. So I'm already going through it, and I've been through it, and going through the healing and finding what works for me, and hopefully you can benefit from this as well. So really work body-based, because that'll bring it up. Journal, and that's the mind again, because you have patterns, you have certain sentences that have been ingrained. It's much like a seed that was planted within you, but a seed that you don't really want anymore. For example, I'm worthless, or I'm an asshole, or what? I'm not. Oh my God, I'm not. I mean, how could someone ever say that to a child? Seriously, this is horrible. And you see my response to it? That is healthy. That is me having worked through it and being like, no, that's my boundary. I'm just like, no, you don't do that to a child. You don't do that to an adult, right? And my immediate response is this. It's like comforting myself. And I've done this so much, with my inner child, with my 16-year-old inner children, I should say, because there are many. With my baby, I've comforted her. I held her when no one else would. You know what I mean? I went back into time, into these situations. I felt them physically. I grieved, because the grieving process is vital, especially when you're suffering from anxiety and from attacks like this. This is when you do have CPTSD, this will bring you the release. This will bring you the release. Whenever, I was in a really, in a period of 3 months where I had constant anxiety and panic attacks. It was horrible. And the only thing that would bring me release was the grieving, was the crying, and was the feeling into my body. And I'm going to make extra videos on the routines that I used for you guys, because some of you may suffer from that, and it can be very helpful. The spiritual aspect as well, doing meditation is important, I believe, and finding something like a mission of some sort, you know what I mean? Even if it's just something small. For example, today I'm gonna smile at one person, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the huge thing. It's just allow that to guide you, what feels right to you, or maybe walk the dog of an elderly lady who can't do it anymore, or offer to go shopping for someone, or whatever it is, or gift someone a book or that you no longer use, just put it out there with a nice note. It's these things because that's important, right? Be kind to your neighbor, and that may give you a good feeling about yourself. You're not all bad at all. You're utterly good. You're utterly good. And I want you to know this. You're utterly good, okay? There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It was just people that didn't work through their own trauma and just unreflected totally poured their shit onto you, and you took it on, and now it's time to give it back, because it's not yours. It isn't yours. They mistreated you, please understand this, and you're just suffering from the consequences. But again, there is healing. There is healing. The journaling, like I mentioned, you're journaling to get those patterns out, and this is why your environment is so excellent for this. They will mirror. like spirit, will, or whoever. If you don't believe in spirit, fine. Whoever is matching you up. You may encounter new narcissists in your life or other people that reflect back to you where there's a hole. For example, a feeling of worthlessness, a feeling of I don't have any boundaries or I'm not allowed to have boundaries. But this is a sentence that is stuck in the head, so you want to work with your mind, with these sentences. Sometimes it takes a couple of pages to journal this out. Sometimes you do dancing before. Like just really put on some music that you like, dance, allow your body to dance it out. Sometimes the sentence will come up during dancing or during meditation or during a body scan. All of a sudden it's there. Or during journaling. Like use anything that helps you. And don't allow anyone to tell you that whatever you're doing isn't right or there's no sense in doing this and that just because they haven't found a solution or a recipe for that. I've had numerous doctors telling me, oh, you're just gonna have to live with it. I was 20 with like constant bladder infections all the time, and this was from me being so angry. And well, there was also there was a lot going on in my childhood that just like that area in general, it was not good. It wasn't energetically in tune, and that's the other thing. Energetically, it affects, like trauma affects you on so many levels. Energetically, physically, mentally, like I said, and spiritually as well. And this is why you want to work holistically with whatever comes your way, or drawing, for example, right? And I know I'm kind of like going back and forth, but I've tried to make this video so many times already and I just can't get it out. So it's like a consistent kind of a thing. At least it doesn't feel like it, but I just want to get it out because I feel like people can benefit from it. So I really hope this is making sense. And so coming back on the many levels and why it's so important, because if you're starting, for example, coming back to the food, if you're starting with the food, only eating healthy, that's not going to be enough, again, because you're going to become frustrated quickly and just that doesn't work. Yes, it does. It's just one part of it. So you want to go deeper. You want to bring out the emotions regarding the food. For example, I'm not allowed to eat before I'm finished. Or it doesn't matter if I'm hungry, like I'm not allowed to feel my hunger, something like that, right? And you'll just bring that up within yourself. Then you want to replace that with a positive statement that you can make up yourself. Like cross that out. If you have that diary right in front of you, cross that out. Yes, I am allowed to eat. Every time I'm hungry, I'm allowed to eat. And I'm actually feeling that hunger, because that's another thing, not feeling when you're hungry. Like I've had that for years. I'm just wasn't feeling it until it was too late already and I started to have like physical symptoms, or again then the overeating, but those kind of balanced themselves out. And I did a lot of sports, so you would never see it again. You would think and maybe even be jealous of me not even knowing what's behind like that perfectionism, and you know what I mean. No need to be jealous at all. Walk in my shoes, seriously. So that's that. The emotional you can do, the energetical, you can do chakra healing. You can go to a Reiki master. You can do Reiki on yourself. We all have the healing power. You can sit on Mother Earth, ask her to clear the energies. You can ask your angels, your guides to clear the energies. You can, again, for the physical body, do the yoga, because it is energetic and it is freeing like your systems. And once you're aligning, for example, your spine again and bringing that in a good position again, that's also the vagus nerve. And it's also a lot of nerves that go along with that, right? So they all go together. I hope I'm stressing this enough here because it's important. And go to bed at a regular time, because this can be extremely dysregulating if you don't. And I've seen it with animals. I've seen that behavior first in animals, and then it occurred to me, oh, if I did that, like at a certain time, I would be a lot more calm. And it is really like that. The routines are another key here for sure. Yeah. The vagus nerve. Let me just get into the vagus nerve. because the vagus nerve runs from back here all the way through your body, and it's like upper body, right? And it's in all our major organs. It affects our breathing, it affects our digestion in a huge way. So I really recommend looking up the vagus nerve, and I'm going to attach a link down below, which is just amazing and super helpful, because it'll calm that fight or flight down immediately. One thing, I'm going to make a separate video on that as well, but I want to link the vagus nerve videos that I found really helpful down below. And an easy one you can do is like right here in this and here, you can make little circles. And I'm not kidding you, this is incredible. You're going to become very tired quickly. You may start to yawn. You're really going to feel that in your body. That's an acupressure point for the vagus nerve right there. That'll immediately calm that down, because when you're in fight or flight, again, you're very prone to illnesses as well, especially chronic illnesses, because your body can't keep that up, can't keep running on that high level. It needs to make the curve back down to, now we're resting again, now we're at ease again. And that's where the healing can actually occur. When you're up there, there's no healing at all, because the body is in survival mode. There's no healing, there's no digestion, there's no, I don't need my taste because I'm in survival. I'm not gonna eat while I'm running away from the lion. And it's only back there where you're coming back to center. And the vagus nerve is incredibly important in this, again, because come on, like the breathing is affected. You'll breathe a lot more deeply. When you're in trauma, you may realize often that you don't have enough air because you're only using that portion of your breathing capacity. When you're relaxed, much like children, when they're healthy, they're beautifully breathing into their belly, and they don't care when it hangs out. And neither should we, because this deep breathing is important. It also signals back to our brain, we are safe, we are okay. And this is why it's so important to make it a regular routine, also in meditation, to feel the peace as much as you can for as long as you can a day, so that your brain can regulate itself back to that state of, we're okay, we're safe in the present moment. And this is another thing. Once you wake up to the present moment, it may be scary at first because you ran away from that precise present moment in the first place. So it may be a scary place to revisit at first. But you can also then, especially in meditation or when you're doing breath work, that's another thing to really calm you down. And I recently released a video, I'm going to attach the link also, about breath work, what you can do immediately to calm yourself down. Because it's important to feel those bliss states as well, right? Not just to be present, but to be blissful in that present state, so that your body is completely retrained. Your mind is completely retrained from, and you'll feel it physically too, like make no mistake, from being really scared and really helpless and really feeling defeated, possibly also, most likely, in that moment, in that present moment, to blissful. Wow, it's blissful, it's safe, it's amazing, I'm taken care of. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, that's a long time. Even if it's just for, 5 seconds in the beginning, that's amazing, because it'll become more louder, I almost wanted to say. It's like the neural pathways in the brain that has to do with neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is basically the ability the brain has to take a different route, if you so will. For example, if you've been going down the fear-based autobahn for the longest time, then that's where the strongest thing runs through. That needs to be like a cable in your head, basically, right? But when you are starting to do meditation, where you all of a sudden feel like pop into that safe place, pop into that blissful state, place, or sit out in nature, appreciate a flower, presence, mindfulness, right? It's amazing, because you are then fully there, and you're just like, oh my God, this is so pretty, right? So pretty to look at. When you are in these states, you can tap yourself here on the third eye and here on the heart chakra, and activate here too, because you're tapping it in. It's just like, oh, I got it. It's like taking a picture energetically and physically of that moment, of that feeling. is important. It's very important. So you're reframing from fear autobahn to you're going to cut out another way, and this happens consciously because you would want to go down that part because you know it so well. It takes conscious effort to be like, oh, let's go over here. Let's use the machete and cut down everything that happens. Like, and that's a new path. You need to still carve that out for yourself. And over time, that thing dies away and the other thing grows so much stronger. And that's basically neuroplasticity. You can retrain your brain, and it doesn't matter how old you are. It works in any age, and that's the cool thing. And here is another thing I want to get to when we're talking about the brain. When we're traumatized, everything works linear. Energetically too, by the way. Physically as well. Like, it's a straight line. And with the brain as well, we're not able to cross over this function. Again, neither energetically nor with our minds. So what you want to do when you're walking or when you're doing sports is to cross over movement. This is not only physically, this is also the brain. They're very smart people that have actually figured this out, that when you look this side and that side as you're walking, you can actually reduce the trauma and make your body calm again, because that's what happens in the brain. There's also a technique called brain spotting I would recommend you look into, and also what's it called? ESMR, yeah, that's a technique where you're doing precisely that. You're going from side to side to side, and then there's an advanced one where you go and having a little pattern going on, and it's all in the realms of reframing and retraining your brain. And I'll attach the one that I found on YouTube, and that was very helpful to me when I had a panic attack because it will calm me down. I didn't want to go to any center, so I try to do it myself at home. So following the dots, and the brain spotting is one where you're looking at it, and you'll know too, like, you fully aware, you know where that spot is, and you keep looking at that spot and the trauma comes up. I do not recommend that doing by yourself. I recommend finding someone who has brain spotting in their arsenal, right, so that they can help you. Yeah, oh my freaking god, I got it out. Finally got it out. Don't know how much sense that makes, but I'm still gonna put it out because it's so important, and I didn't know how to compress it into like proper segments. And again, I tried so many times, and I was just like, it's time, it needs to be out there, and people need to hear it, so they can heal themselves. Even if you do have a therapist, you can still work heaps by yourself and speed up that healing process and get out of being emotionally triggered by things, becoming emotionally literate, actually feeling what is that feeling that I'm feeling. Peter Walker's book, Richard Grannon's channel on YouTube, I highly recommend it. Crappy Childhood Fairy, Dr. Ramani, who else? Dr. Levine, oh my god, Dr. Gabor Mate is another one I really, really recommend. These people are awesome. They're doing amazing work with regards to Dr. Gabor Mate, for example, with addiction, and how addiction and food can be an addiction for sure, too much sugar, etc. We can use that to comfort us, but what we're ultimately doing here is we're self-medicating because we do not want to feel that pain. We're running from our emotions because we think it's too big, we cannot face it, when we actually can. We're now adults and we can handle it. And the release, again, that comes with it, with facing this will make you secure. This will make you so freaking strong because you've been through so much already. So you survived. Like, that is tremendous strength right there. Incredible strength. And you'll realize that once, like, that healing starts, once you get into that place and feel those emotions, because that's key. And on that note, with spirituality, that can sometimes kick you in the gut if it's being misunderstood. For example, only love and light, right? It's all good and well, right? But if you're traumatized, it doesn't work like that. It does not work, not in my opinion. It doesn't work like that. If you found another way, perfect, great. You know, I'm very accepting. Again, I'm saying whatever works for you is amazing. But there is this trap of, I'm focusing on love and light exclusively, but I am standing in a pile of feces. I said it in this other reading, ignoring what's happening and just trying to get to that place. And it's understandable because we all want to be there. We all just want to be love and light. We want to feel that love. We want to feel that kindness, that goodness. But we need to work with what we were given, because this is also, and some of you may not agree, especially if you're not far into that healing process and may not understand, but this is also a huge gift, because you're coming here with this. You are most likely a healer, with a huge capacity to heal others, because you've been through all this shit, right? You came here. It has to have a reason, right? It does have to have a reason. It cannot just go out the window and be like, oh, it just happened and we're, you know what I mean? No, this has a reason. This has a huge, value in it too. That's duality too. As much as this sucks and worse than that, right? It also holds its same weight in gold as well when you're working through this, because the empowerment that comes from that, the sovereignty that comes from that, knowing who you are truly, is incredibly powerful, and you then carry that out onto the world. And that is something worth healing for. And you're not just doing that healing for yourself, you're healing collectively, because the moment you become aware of it, you're also spreading that awareness around you, and you don't even have to speak on it. It's just like by you existing as a healed or more healed, even if you just did a little healing, it's amazing. Like, congratulate yourself for that. Pat yourself on the shoulder. It's just like, that's incredible, because you are here, and because you are putting a stop to that insanity, craziness, whatever it is, to that toxicity, you're already partaking in the new world, in this thing. And please don't buy into high vibes only. This is toxic as well, because this is like, oh, we're so happy all the time. It doesn't work like that. It does not. Please don't fall into that trap, right? It's okay, because then you're being shamed and guilted for your so-called negative feelings, and you're not allowed to feel them. Oh, I'm not allowed to feel anger. I can't, because I need to be forgiving. You can only be forgiving once you've worked through it. Then it'll come to you. It comes flying in. It'll come flying into you. It'll just be there. You don't have to have like affirmations all the time. Like I said, this is just like working on the surface. When you go deeper and then come back up, then the forgiveness is there automatically. You don't have to work on the surface, because it's only surface. It'll stay there if you only work there. You want to take that deep dive, because again, it'll save you from future abuse and from carrying out that abuse yourself, because the moment you become conscious of those patterns in others, you may also find those patterns in yourself. And I am sure that you would. I know. I was surprised and really shocked of some of the patterns that I found that I had adapted myself, that I thought were okay to be like around other people, just because I hadn't identified them as abusive or toxic. So that's also a huge thing, and I feel relief with that. And this is my accomplishment, actually, because I was thinking about what's my accomplishment today for the Fellow Seekers group. That's my accomplishment. I have done a lot of healing, and I'm not I'm still going to be carrying some stuff around, and some stuff I'll be passing on. But I became aware of a lot of patterns, like not only within my parents and surroundings, but also within myself. And I'm no longer being that perpetrator myself in that sense, or that abuser myself in that sense. Okay, and I'm very, very proud of that, and I'm happy I'm in that place. Very happy. All right, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you being here, being on this healing journey, and I love you all so much, and I'm sending you so much love, light, and shadow out. And if you want to work with me with a one-on-one coaching, higher guidance coaching call, you may do so. First 20 minutes are free to get to know each other, see where you are, where I'm at, and see if we go together. And you can also, of course, book the healing readings with me, 20-minute or 40-minute, to see where your blockages are and to resolve them, and to see how you can move forward empowered. And I'm here for that, and I'm grateful that I am able to do this healing work, and to have you as this gorgeous tribe here. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you next time. Bye.